Hey everybody, welcome to a Data Umbrella webinar. I am joining from New York, and I'm just going to do a brief introduction about Data Umbrella, and then we'll get started on the webinar. So it'll sort of go like, I'll do the introduction, Mridu will do the talk, and then you can post any questions in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll sort of answer those as they pile up over time. Just to let people know, this will be recorded and will be available on our YouTube. I posted a link to YouTube in the chat. If you're not able to see it, just let me know and I can share it again. About me, I'm the founder of Data Umbrella. I'm a statistician, data scientist, and I am also an organizer for the New York City chapter of PyLadies, and I am on Twitter at Reshama S. Okay. The mission of Data Umbrella is to provide a welcoming, educational, inclusive space for underrepresented persons in the field of data science and machine learning. Check out our website. We are pretty much on every social media platform as Data Umbrella, and we are a volunteer-run organization. PyLadies is an international group. There's over 100 active chapters, and it's for Python. It's for women and gender minorities of all levels of programming experience. You can follow us on Twitter as well. I want to go over our code of conduct. We're dedicated to providing harassment-free experience for everyone. Be kind, be professional, and that also applies to the chat as well. On the Data Umbrella website, which is dataumbrella.org, there are many resources available for responsibility, ethics, inclusivity, diversity, and also learning R and Python and open source. So feel free to check those out on our website. We have the best place to find out about our events are on Meetup. I also joined an event for next Tuesday's webinar, which is on creating nimble data processes, which will be fun. If you are on LinkedIn, I share a lot of articles, including job postings. So if you're interested in that, feel free to follow us on LinkedIn. Feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel for our videos, and follow us on Twitter for updates. And so now we're going to get started. I'm going to turn this over to Mridu, who is joining us from Central India in Dore, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. And it's 9:30 Standard Time.
Right. I'll just I'll share my screen. Is the screen visible now?
I see drag and drop files. I think it might just be loading. Yep, now we can see your screen.
All right. Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Mridu Bhatnagar. I'm from India, and I'm a software engineer by profession. And when I'm not programming or building stuff, then I love giving talks at various meetups and conferences. So during this time, I have been giving talks all across the globe in every possible meetup that is possible. So in today's session, we'll be covering up about building a conversational bot for WhatsApp. And here is the bot. You like on the left-hand side, you may be seeing a bot GIF. So this is the bot I had recently built. It is vocab bot, and the features it includes are it tells you the word definition, it tells synonyms, it tells antonyms, and it tells examples based on whatever you query it for. So like it is querying examples for amazing, so this would return some examples for amazing. So this was the bot that I had recently built, and the session for today we would be covering that how you too can build any of the bots and bring your ideas to life. So moving ahead, the requirements for this session include that what I have used is I have used Python version 3.6, greater than 3.6, and then we'll be using Flask for running the web server, and then we'll be using another package that is ngrok. Ngrok is basically used for testing up our bot with the mobile application. So there needs to be some way where we can just test whether the bot is working as expected or not. So for that, we'll be using ngrok. And all these things that I have mentioned are pip installable. So pip is the Python package manager. You just have to do pip install Flask, pip install ngrok. Ngrok is not pip installable. For ngrok, you need to go onto ngrok website, and from ngrok website, you can download ngrok. So that is how you install ngrok, and then all you need is a smartphone with WhatsApp installed on it. And then there needs to be a Twilio account. So this is the URL at the bottom is for creating the Twilio account. I can maybe share this link later I can share this link so that if you want, you can just open up and create your own accounts. I'll just share it just a second. Yeah. If you are following along or later you want to create a Twilio account, you can use this URL that I have put up in the chat. The initial account, trial account, is basically free, so it won't charge you anything. So moving ahead, here is how you can configure your Twilio WhatsApp sandbox. So once you have created your account on Twilio, you can just go on to Twilio console SMS WhatsApp learn this URL. So first and foremost thing is to create the account on Twilio, and then there is something as Twilio Sandbox. So our application basically will be communicating to Twilio. So imagine that you have opened your WhatsApp and you are querying your WhatsApp with suppose you wanted word definition, or you are saying hi to your WhatsApp. So whatever message you are sending to the WhatsApp should go to Twilio. So we are trying to make a connection between WhatsApp and Twilio. So for that connection to happen, this URL is what is needed. Connection between WhatsApp and Twilio. So the URL that I had sent above was for connection between WhatsApp and Twilio. And if you have already created this account and you go on to this URL, this is how your page would look like. I'll just expand it. This is how basically your screen is going to look like once you are on Twilio Sandbox. I cannot I cannot go on the actual website and show you live because there are some secret codes that are there that are not to be shown. So make sure that whenever you too are using the Twilio application, you hide your own codes. Don't just go and put it up on GitHub or somewhere. These are your own codes. And so the left-hand side number that you see here is something that you have to store, you have to save it on your mobile phone. And this is your joining code. So once you save this contact number on your mobile phone, this contact would basically appear on your WhatsApp contacts. So this is your WhatsApp contact number and this is the joining code. And everyone is going to have their different joining codes, and joining code needs to be hidden because after a certain point of time, when all the Twilio free credits are over, it every query is chargeable. So that's why don't just disclose your secret code, otherwise others will be able to use it and your free credits will be gone. So that is the reason basically to hide it. So next step is, after you create the account, just save whatever number comes onto your screen. You will have to save it on your phone, and then this is the joining code. So on your WhatsApp, what you have to do is, the first message you will see is join, followed by whatever is the code. This message you will have to send on the WhatsApp. Now, this whole setup makes sure that our WhatsApp is being connected to Twilio. This is the very first part of the chatbot. Okay, and now, as if you have already saved the number, so this is the initial step of the bot that we have already done. I saved that number using the name vocab bot. You can save it by anything that you like. So this is the very initial step. And now how we will go on doing this programmatically is what I'm going to explain in the next steps. So the next steps include creating a Python virtual environment. So once you have the initial thing set up, all you have to do is create a Python virtual environment. So I'll just briefly explain what is meant by a virtual environment in case you don't know. So what happens is, in Python, we install all the external packages by doing pip install. And if we are not using the virtual environment, all these packages get globally installed on our system. So as a result, a lot of times between multiple projects, there can be version conflict. Suppose you are using Django 2 in one project and Django 3 in another project, then it is difficult for the project to determine that which Django version should I use. So to avoid scenarios like these, we use Python virtual environment. And here are the steps to create the virtual environment so that there is no version conflict. Now, in case you are a Mac or Linux user, all you have to do is run the following commands. So mkdir is basically for creating a new directory, that is the WhatsApp bot. And cd was for changing the directory of the bot. And then python -m when WhatsApp bot when you do. This command creates the virtual environment. When is the package, and WhatsApp bot is your name of the virtual environment that you are going to create. If when is not installed on your system, you will have to install when on your system. And then once the virtual environment is once this virtual environment is created, all you have to do is activate the virtual environment. That is source WhatsApp bot bin activate. So then you have to activate this virtual environment, and you would come to know whether the environment is activated or not by this last command. So if you are able to see on the left hand side that such a thing is coming like WhatsApp bot, which means that the bot has got activated. And now I am just installing my requirements. I need a Twilio library, then I need requests. And request is the HTTP library in Python. It helps us in communicating with the external third-party APIs or any kind of APIs for that matter. And then Flask is a micro web framework in Python. And python.env is another package. It is used to save all our secret keys. So, and if you are a Windows user, then the commands are different. So for making the directory, you need to do md WhatsApp bot. For changing, we have WhatsApp bot. Then we have python -n when WhatsApp bot. This is for again creating the virtual environment. Then we are trying to activate the virtual environment. And then similarly, you just need to install all the requirements. So before we go ahead, I would like to tell that Twilio we are installing so that from Twilio we are able to send some response to the bot. So if you send any message to your bot, the bot must reply something. And for getting the reply from the bot, we need to install a Twilio application so that it sends us some response. And request library is for communicating with any third-party library. Flask, uh, Flask is basically the micro framework that is used uh, for running the server at our backend, and then python.n we are using so that we don't disclose any secret key to anyone. It needs to be saved on our part, and we'll see everything working later in the session. And now, before I go on with the code, are there any questions or anything till now, or something that I haven't explained in greater detail? So you can ask the question if there are any.
I don't see any questions so far, except is the webinar being recorded, which it is. But if anybody has any questions, feel free to post on the, yeah, we will have a link to the slides afterwards.
Hmm.
All right, so yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so moving ahead, the next step basically is that we need to create a Flask chatbot service. So we are trying to create the service because we need to send some data to the user. So the workflow basically is user enters the query to the WhatsApp, and then instead of a human being replying to you, there is a bot there, and instead of human, the bot is basically replying to you. So for this whole workflow to take place, we need Flask applications. There needs to be a server running that would keep on replying to your messages. So this is how we create. The very first step is, so in the presentation here, I won't be explaining the process of building vocab bot, but I am explaining a general, giving a general idea that how you can create your own bots and bring your own ideas to life. And this is the very basic, like hello world of bots, we can say like that. This is the very basic bot that you can create on your own, and then feel free to incorporate your own ideas and convert those into bots. So I'm just explaining a very generic process. So this is the very first step of creating the Flask service. So first I'm trying to import Flask class. So I'm doing from Flask import Flask in line 1. And then I'm initializing the app from Flask class. And all I'm doing then is app.root hello world. So whatever communication is going to take place through this endpoint hello world. I'm going to post my messages on hello world endpoint. And whatever the user is sending will also be coming on this hello world endpoint. So we'll be seeing ahead how this happens. And app.run allows us to run the server. App.run basically allows us to run the application. And by default, the application runs on port number 8000, localhost port 8000. So our very initial setup is this. Now the next step is, when I have already created one endpoint and I know that this is where I need to send my data, the next point is how are we going to receive the incoming message from the user. So now for that to happen, all you need to do is app.root hello world method post. We are trying to post something, and then we do request.values.get and body.lower. So what this conveys is that if the request message contains a key named as body, then we are trying to fetch the value corresponding to this body. And if it doesn't find any key corresponding to body, like if it doesn't find the key body, then the message would be empty. And then I am trying to convert my whole message into lowercase. So that is the meaning of this whole line, request.values.get. I am trying to get the value. And whatever is the value that the user sends to the WhatsApp bot. So in your bot, if you write hi, so here in this function, your incoming message would be hi. If the user is sending hello, the incoming value of incoming message would be hello. So line number 6 is just for retrieving the incoming message by the user. Next step is we want Twilio to send a message to the user back. So for that purpose, Twilio has a messaging response. It has a Twilio ML library in it. So if you want to check out, all these documentation are very well explained on the Twilio's website itself. So whenever you are building one for your own, you can just check the documentation there. Twilio ML is the library. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to initialize this class messaging response. Then we have a response object with us. And in the response, I want that I should send a message. So all I am doing is response.message, and here I am initializing the variable message with it. And then my app is still running. For running my app, I am doing app.run. Line number 8 and line number 9. Why we are doing this is because this is a format that is suggested by Twilio. So only when you have this format in your application, you would be able to send the message back to the user. So step 1 is user is sending the message to Twilio, that is line number 7. Line number 8 and 9 is Twilio is trying to send back something to the user. So that is what line number 7, 8 and 9 are doing. And now what we want is that whenever the incoming message is hi, the output message should be hello, hope you have a good day. So now I am saying that user is entering the message hi. So your value of incoming message in line number 7 would be hi. And then when you are doing response is equal to messaging response, message is equal to response dot message. When we do this thing, from here, I am trying to now send, the bot is trying to send the message to the user. So there is another built-in method in that library itself, that is message.body. So now I am doing is hello plus the incoming message. So hello would be is a static thing that I am sending, and plus the incoming message. So suppose the incoming message is hi, so the returned response would be hello hi. Or suppose if I am sending the incoming message is Mridu, I am sending my name itself, so it would say hello Mridu. If the user is sending world, so the output is hello world. So this is a very trivial application of how message sending and message receiving takes place in this bot. At the moment, I am sending some static messages that always this is going to return hello plus the incoming message. But we can say send dynamic messages as well, like I was doing in the vocab bot. So for sending dynamic messages, we basically need an API. So that we'll be discussing ahead. But the process of that workflow of incoming messages and outgoing message is this that you see here. Are there any doubts till now? Yeah, the presentation slides I'll be sharing. Any doubts apart from the presentation slide thing? Are there any questions, or have I gone too fast?
I don't see any other questions there, so that's good.
Okay. Are things understandable till now, or it is a bit confusing? Okay, so we'll just, and here, I'm sorry, I think this is going to be hello plus hi. So if the incoming message was hi, the output that our function was sending was hello and followed by hello, a hi. This is a very trivial application just to make things easier and so that you understand the process of building the bot. And usually the way the request and response Twilio accepts is in the XML format. So it is not JSON format, it is XML format. And the body keyword that we were using was this body keyword. And if you have to send any image, so for image, you need to use media key. So all this is very well explained in their documentation. And just for running your application, all you have to do is python app.py. So earlier, by mistake, I have said that we are running the application on port number 8000. So I'm sorry for that. The port is not 8000. The application is running on port 5000. All right. So once all your code is ready and in place, all you have to do is run your application. So now your application is running basically on port 5000. So now what problem do we have is we want the bot to run on WhatsApp, and WhatsApp is on your mobile and your code is on your laptop. So there are two different two different devices that we want to communicate in between. So the next step is how do the communication between the two devices happen? So that communication happens with the use of this ngrok. So initially I had told that you need to install ngrok from its website. So now next step is like you open another terminal on your laptop, go onto the location where this ngrok has got installed. So usually it would be in your downloads folder, and then all you have to do is run /ngrok http 5000. What this will do is this will run ngrok at port 5000. So now you have on one terminal Flask running, on another terminal you have this ngrok running. There are two things running, and now Twilio will help us in connecting these two devices. So the terminal would look something like this. Once you run your ngrok, the terminal is going to look something like this. Okay, so now next step is making a connection with Twilio. So now all you have to do is just copy this forwarding URL. On everyone's laptop, the forwarding URL will be different. So now next step is for connecting the two devices, you have to just copy the URL, and then by copying the URL, you just need to put the URL in the Twilio sandbox for WhatsApp. You would be able to see this Twilio sandbox in the console itself. Just go on to the Twilio website. All these things are available there. And as I had mentioned above, add your ngrok forwarding URL in the text box. So you have to add the ngrok URL here, and then after adding the ngrok URL, at the end you have to put / and followed by the endpoint hello world that we had used. So forwarding URL followed by the endpoint that was hello world. So this is basically now everything is set. Now Twilio knows how the communication between the devices needs to take place. And now if you test your Flask service again, you would see that the communication is taking place. Whenever you send hi, Twilio would send you hello followed by a hi. or based on whatever code that you have written in your application. So this is a very simple application that I had demoed on how to build a bot. And the next one was how do we send a dynamic response, or how dynamic responses are to be sent. So we, in the above example, we were sending the static responses, that if whenever you send hello, it will send you hi. But for dynamic responses, what can be done is, there are a lot of APIs already available. So there is some examples of APIs are, there is Google Maps API, there is cat pictures API, you have Twitter API, news API, GitHub API. Now you can use all these use cases with your WhatsApp. So one use case could be, you are sending some location, or you are suppose sending latitude and longitude, and then Google Maps returns you the location on the map. Or you are sending some location and the Google Map returns you that exact map location. Or you are interested in seeing some cat pictures, so you just and start querying that cat pictures API. Or you are just interested in knowing the trend, what is trending on Twitter, and you are interested in seeing that trending Twitter thing on WhatsApp, so you can just use the Twitter API. Or you are interested in reading the Google News on WhatsApp, so you can use Google News for that. If you want to check whether the open source project you are contributing to has some new pull requests on it, or has some new issues opened on it, so instead of opening GitHub time and again, you can just use WhatsApp for it, if you are more accustomed to using WhatsApp. So these are a couple of use cases. And for the bot that I had basically initially shown you, so for that bot, I am also using an API for that. So there is a dictionary API that I had used. So the dictionary API was Merriam-Webster's API. So that Merriam-Webster's API returns all these word definitions, synonyms, antonyms, and examples. And that is how, for any random word I was entering, the bot was returning me a response, dynamic response. And using Twilio is also not necessary. Twilio we are using, I am using Twilio, but original WhatsApp API can be used. The problem, however, with WhatsApp API is that it is not a developer API. By this I mean is, like, first you need to be a business owner, only then you would be able to use the original WhatsApp API. I don't think they have opened the WhatsApp API for even the developers to use for their projects. So there is some kind of restriction at their end, and also they are very particular about what kind of messages you send. So suppose if someone is trying to spam anyone, or someone is trying to send incorrect messages, then WhatsApp blocks the user. So before deciding onto the use case for building the bot, first, before using the APIs, the use case needs to be very well thought of, that what we are trying to send. And WhatsApp also has certain restrictions, that what should be the template of the messages that the bot is sending. And also with WhatsApp, the thing is, you need to get approval from WhatsApp for using all these things. So, and one way to put this bot in production is, like, if you just want to put your Twilio bot for in production and run it, so you can maybe deploy it on Heroku. So I use my bot often, and I have deployed it on Heroku, as I don't own any business and I'm not using WhatsApp official APIs. So I have basically deployed it on Heroku, and I have kept the secret keys with me. So it is just used for private purposes. And these days, if you would have noticed, a lot of businesses are using WhatsApp as a platform for marketing. So it has pretty good business use case attached to it. And companies can use it and are using it for providing customer support. and even some companies are using it for broadcasting the messages regarding events and all. So there can be various business use cases attached to WhatsApp. So this was all I had. And if you are interested in building the vocab bot itself, so here is a blog that I had recently written for Twilio themselves. So here is the bot URL. So whenever you are trying to build it, if you want to build the same one or trying to have some idea, you can just check out this blog. The blog has is beginner friendly blog, so it has detailed explanation of why a particular decision is taken and why I'm doing what I'm doing. So you can just add a bot logic based on your own needs and requirements. So, and the last step after discussing these APIs is, as throughout we were using Python. So in Python, just for integrating the API, there is a simple module that we use, that is requests. So if you want to integrate any API to your code, all you have to do is use requests.get. Now this method depends on your API, whether it accepts a get request, post request. But all you need to do is install requests, and then there is a built-in JSON module. Through JSON, what gets done is JSON converts your string data into dictionary data, and this dictionary data in the end is parsable. So instead of sending all your information, returning all your information, you can just send the needed information to the user. So this small snippet just explains that part. And based on your own use case, you can write your own logic. And a lot of times it is only about writing conditional statements. And if you are interested in exploring all of this further, so if you are interested in Flask, then you can check out the Flask official documentation, and blog link I have already shared with you all. And then GitHub has a long list of public APIs that you can use. I had only listed a couple of them, so you can have a look at all these public APIs as well when you build one of your own. So thank you. That was all I had for the session.
Does anybody have any questions? Feel free to post them in the chat, and I can read them out for Mridu. Thanks so much for the presentation. It was great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to turn on my mic. I don't see any questions here. All right, so we'll be sharing the video soon with the link for the slides and a couple of links that you posted on in the chat as well.
Yeah, those links are there in the presentation as well on the last slide.
Okay, that's great. So they'll be in the presentation. You'll be able to access them. Gabrielle writes, I would have liked to learn a little bit more on how to publish the bot. Do you have resources for that?
For publishing the bot, I don't really have resources, but I have done another blog for Twilio that talks about this publishing thing. So I think I can point to that one. The Heroku part for publishing that I'm using. So
Okay.
Here is another use case. So this was basically not for, sorry, this one is not basically using WhatsApp, but it is using Heroku. So from here, that publishing part, you can learn that how you can publish your bot.
Okay. We have another question, which is it possible to add ML cognitive service from Azure on the bot?
I am not really into ML, and I am not very sure if that is possible or not. But you can check this out on Twilio's website itself. They have a lot of blogs, and there are a lot of people working on a lot of interesting ideas for the bot. So I think this Azure thing, you can find it up there if someone has used or not. And
Okay.
if this Azure service is an API itself, then it can definitely be used.
Okay.
Any kind of API you can integrate with Twilio.
Okay. Next question. I am new to Flask. What does Flask do?
Flask, I don't know if you have heard of Django or not, but Flask, like Django, is a web framework. So web frameworks are basically used to build websites. It helps in easing the process of building the websites for you. So without the framework, if you start going and writing the normal Python code, so things get pretty complex, and commercially you need to write a lot of code, and it is not viable to do so. So that is why we use frameworks for the same. So a lot of things are already built in, and then other parts you have to develop on your own. So Flask is basically a web framework that is used.
The next question is, thank you for your questions afterwards. There's our Slack channel where we can post them to. Data Umbrella has a Discord server, so and it's on our website. There's a link to how to join on the website. So if you go to dataumbrella.org, you can join Discord that way. It says the publishing link is not found.
Oh, yeah. Just a second. I think there is some problem.
Okay.
Yeah. You will have to scroll down on this link, and then there is a section where I am publishing my application on Heroku. So from that whole blog, you can take that part of how our application is published on Heroku.
Okay. All right. Great. And if anybody has any more questions, now is the time to ask.
And I'm there on Twitter, so if there are any further questions, so I can take it up there as well.
That's right. Mridu has her Twitter handle in the event description on Meetup, so that's another way that you can contact her. All right, so it looks like there are no other questions, so I am going to thank you. Thank you. Thanks for sharing the Twitter handle. It's at MRIDU__.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us. I know it's 10:30 p.m. your time now, right?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, 10:15 at my.
10:15. Okay, and we'll be sharing the recording soon. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you.